Oh, good morning, everybody. It's good to be back. Some news. I just recently, my phone died, and my screen on my phone died, and I had to get a new one. Luckily, it was just the screen that was dead, and I could transfer over all of my data and everything, all my photos of my cat that were most important. So that's good. Let me just pop out the chat here as people start to slowly trickle in. Two reasons for this live stream, this impromptu live stream this morning. Sorry for not announcing it prior to everybody. Hey, Jellyguard. Yes, you are first. Hey, Dragonlord. Stefan. Moonring. How's it going? Bryce. Wolfbane. Some Stormchaser. Hello. So the reason for the live stream is that I'm back to making D&D content again, as you may have noticed. Hey, Kakastuk. A lot of people have noticed. I've got a lot of reach outs from people saying, glad that you're back. We understood why you stood down from making D&D content for a good 7 months there because of your boycott of Wizards of the Coast and over the OGL drama. But we're in the era of Baldur's Gate 3 now, and there's a massive influx of new players who are going to be arriving in the hobby. It's going to be like 5e over again, except these are a different breed of people. We've got like PlayStation 5 players who are being exposed to Dungeons and Dragons rules and stuff for the first time, and they're interested in the hobby, and they're looking for lore and stuff on it. So they go to YouTube, least effort, and they find me and various others. And so it's important that I get my voice out there and get the information about Dungeons and Dragons into them, and get them introduced to the culture, sort of thing. And I've got a very thick skin, and I can handle whatever they throw at me. That's a very important thing, because these are gamers, right? These are not role players. These are video gamers, and they're raw. They're pretty raw. So yeah, one thing I'll ask is, if you find some people slinging shit at me in the comments of my videos, you don't need to defend me. I can defend myself. I'm perfectly fine. I've been doing this for years. Second thing is, on Twitter recently, this morning, in fact, there was a post about the warning label that they had in some I don't even know what product from Wizard of the Coast that this warning appears in. I'm not paying any attention to the shit that they're putting out lately. I'm not going to comment on that. All I'll comment on is in regards to, it's a warning over in the middle of the book somewhere on some adventure, I think, saying that this Far Realm stuff, may mutate the player characters or whatever, so you need to get their consent first. And a lot of people are making a big issue about this, and I'm just like, they're just throwing this in there. They're just throwing this in there to cause debate and stuff so that you guys will basically talk about this online. One thing. But really, it's about identity politics. And they're like, how does this have anything to do with identity politics? And I said, it's body autonomy, right? So people are over-investing emotionally into their characters as a persona ideation, right? The warning label needs to be on the cover saying, do not overly emotionally invest in your player characters because they may get minced and mutated, right? That should be on every, it should be integral to, you're about to play a role-playing game. The character that you're playing is imaginary. Nothing that can happen to your character is going to happen to you. It's just imagination. It can't hurt you. It's not your personality on a piece of paper, that the person is attacking. Like, it's not you. That is the message they need to be sending, not like, oh, you need to be careful of people's feelings in case, you mutate their character. Yes, character, your rights over your character, what happens to them is important, but, it's a game where you go into a place and chop goblins to pieces. There's violence. There's all sorts of horrible things that you do to them. Control their minds with charm spells against their will. Like, consent? Do you want to talk about the consent that player characters dish out on the creatures in the game? No, come on. Come on. It's about people over-investing in their characters. That's a fundamental thing, and we need to, yeah, that narrative needs to shift to, hey, the players need to take responsibility for this shit too. It's not just on the DMs to say, hey, by the way, your feelings may be hurt. It's like, guard your feelings a little bit better, snowflakes. Oh, keyword, can't use the word. But yeah, I'm an ally of people having, autonomy over their bodies and their identities and stuff like that. But I'm not the sort of person that says, that translates directly into role-playing games. The character is not your identity. You know what I mean? And a lot of people overinvest and they're like, oh, this is, my inner self is I'm a bard, something or other, I'm a tiefling. I identify as a tiefling. It's like slap. Like you identify as a human first and foremost. Yeah. So I'm not slagging the identity politics and stuff like that. I think it's an important debate. But yeah, I don't agree with this whole warn the players that there may be something nasty happens to their character. That's implied in a role-playing game where swords, sorcery, and monsters are involved. Dungeons and dragons are not safe places, okay? You're walking into a dark alley on purpose. Bad things are going to happen to your character. They're going to fight them and hopefully survive and be heroes at the end of it. But they don't just come on. So yeah, cool your jets, people on Twitter. I'm not attacking identity politics or calling people woke or anything like that. I'm just saying that Wizards of the Coast is putting that shit in there deliberately to rile you up. Don't fall for it. They're basically using American politics on you. It's like, hey, here's the executive branch, rah, watch us, while the legislative branch is just taking away all your rights over here and nobody's paying any attention or voting or paying any attention to the voting over there. It's like, pay attention to the legislative branch, you fucking idiots. Sorry. Okay, it's a smokescreen. Yeah. Anyway, I'm back to making D&D videos. Yay! Sorry, I'll pay attention to what everybody's saying now. My preach for the morning is over. Hey, Callum. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm back to it as well. It's just I played a bit of Baldur's Gate 3 and my battery's just recharged. I was just back in love with D&D again. But I really was just hurting from the OGL thing. I felt betrayed every time I picked up a D&D book, or even the word D&D was just poison in my mind. And I'm still a bit iffy on 5th edition, but it's not its fault, that daddy's an abuser. So yeah, I don't I'm still hating Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, but I'm not blaming the realms for that. And my love for the realms has been rekindled, you could say. And you can thank Larian Studios for that. There's nothing that Wizards of the Coast did. So I'm still very anti Wizards of the Coast, and any stuff that they put out, I'm just gonna, I'm not paying any attention to D&D Beyond. If you want to talk about 5th edition mechanics and stuff like that, go somewhere else. I'm talking about the lore of the game and that sort of stuff. I don't care about the game mechanics. Any monsters in Baldur's Gate 3 that you haven't covered yet? No, I'm not too sure actually. I need basically somebody to do a comprehensive list of all the stuff that you find in Baldur's Gate 3, and then I can cover it. What I am covering at the moment is I was looking at all my content and stuff, and I was like, hey, I'm not actually that far off from covering all the monsters in the original Monster Manual 2. So if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm actually covering all the monsters in Monster Manual 2. That's my playlist going forward, with injections of other things that other people have requested that I need to get around to doing, and topical subjects that are sort of in the D&D zeitgeist at the subject du jour that people are talking about. But I'm not specifically aiming to capitalize on all the Baldur's Gate 3 players. That's just organically happening anyway. As soon as Baldur's Gate 3 dropped, I got a massive uptick in people watching my old content on the Mind Flayer and Red Dragon and stuff like that, understandably. And I'm very happy that they're happy with that. There's a lot of people also who are saying that I bury the lead on my videos too much. So in the next video that I'm putting out on Zorvental, the great game of dragons, I'm going to be talking about the rules of the game and exactly what is involved in the game. The first part of the video is all about that. So people who want the information exactly on Zorvental get that straight away. And then those who stick around basically get the more recent events involving Zorvental in the Forgotten Realms, and then I go into the deep history of the stuff. So essentially, the deeper you delve into the video, the farther back and more nuanced and deep the lore research goes. So I pay you for your investment. Essentially, you get the deep lore. If you stick around and do the research in the video, I'll give you the research that I've done on the subject, which I think is a good format going forward for people. Because people who like long format stuff, they do pay attention to that and really enjoy me rambling on about the deep history of stuff. And I'm a bit more relaxed about it. It sort of flows around a little bit. I talk a little bit about the elven atrocities and the situation with the dark elves and stuff in the early days, like 20,000, 30,000 years ago in Faerun. So I go way back and talk about the situation there and give a better overview of what the planet Faerun, planet Toril was really like back then. And exactly how long the reign of the dragons were and what the dragon society and culture was and what brought them down, sort of thing. Because they had an empire that fell as well. And really, that's the legacy of the past, is like empires rise and fall, but they leave wonders and scars behind. Each one of them does. And each one of them had atrocities, and each one of them had wonderful things that they invented and discovered and passed on. So, yeah, it's an interesting subject. And Zorvental is very, very relevant for a modern role player in the Forgotten Realms, because it is a perfect launching pad for all kinds of adventures. As soon as you get involved in the great game, it's like espionage and assassination and huge wealth on offer and secrets and all sorts of stuff. It is, the very nature of the game is intoxicatingly enticing to get involved in. That's the whole point of Zorvental, is like the more you know about the secret lore. Hey, thanks, man. The more you know about the secret lore of Zorvental, the deeper you get. Like, it hooks its claws into you like Magic the Gathering. Like, the more you know about it, the more you want to learn about it. And and you don't give away your secrets on your tactics and stuff. And each different lineage of Zorvental, because basically a master takes an apprentice, like the Jedi and the Sith, except instead of just Jedi and Sith, there's all these schools that all interpret the precepts or the rules of Zorvental. They rules lawyer them slightly differently. So they use their tactics slightly differently within the strictures of the rules that they must follow. So they're like kung fu schools, right? So it's like, I am trained. Oh, you're trained under Master Sham and the Purple Claws. It's like, yes. Mwahaha. And each of the dragons has got a lieutenant who's kind of like a warlock, who has special powers and stuff granted by their alliance with this one particular dragon. So they're like master boss, sub boss, all the lieutenants and stuff. So it's just perfectly designed for role playing. It's the new Fandelver book that's got that stuff. Oh, okay. Thanks, James. The new update to the starting set adventure. That's in the starting set adventure. Oh, well, no wonder everybody's getting so riled up about it. Yeah, I really don't care. I don't care about the starter set. Hey, HP Hugger. Wow, lots of people. It must be a good time of day to live stream. Lots of people joining in. Zorvental, let's go. Yeah. So it's an in-depth video. It's not as long as I thought it was. Like, I was writing it last night and the day before, and I was just like, man, what's the word count on this? It feels like 5,000. I was only like 2,500 words in. But it was very dense, very deep stuff. Thanks, Robert. With all this depressing stuff happening, we need something fun and crazy. Star Trek Forgotten Realms crossover. I have actually done a video on what a Star Trek team would be like in D&D, like how you stat them out in 5th edition. It's quite easy. It's not difficult. All of their technological devices are spell effects, essentially. That's all you got to do. And other than that, they're just squishy humans. Oh, you rewound the Copper Dragon video many times, sucking up the Zorvental information there. Yeah, there's a lot. Basically, I cover everything about Zorvental, so you'll have a very good understanding of it, and you'll learn a couple of new words that will become part of your lexicon. There's about 3 draconic words that'll become part of your way of speaking. Hey, Joseph Kelly. I was just talking about Zorvental, Elliot. This game that dragons play. Essentially, it's a magical transformation that one dragon inducts another dragon into the Zorvental game, and they go through a ritual of Zorvental. And Zorvental was one of the gods of the Draconic Pantheon. He's basically the brother of Bahamut and Tiamat, who essentially is dragon intelligence, dragon's cunning personified. And Zorvental, and there's a neutral dragon who basically is a god of dragonness. Dragon Pantheon's interesting. Who essentially pushed Zorvental on the dragons as like, look, we need to get away from the feral sort of dominance by conquest and fighting amongst each other, which can, with the attrition rate is too high amongst our slow reproducing species. So we need another way of gaining power through conflict that doesn't involve tooth and claw directly. So we need you to manipulate the lesser races around you because they're shunning you and not recognizing you as the lord and master of the prime material plane that you are designed to be. So that is essentially where the dragon's religious ideas of where Zorvental comes from. But of course, the dragons had a massive religious schism and all sorts of religious wars amongst themselves, really intense, that threatened at that time, because they were in conflict with the giants as well, to exterminate their entire species. So then, of course, the elves did their atrocity, their curse on the dragons, which plunged them into a nightmare state of existing for 26,000 years, and they lost the art of Zorvental. And then recently, when Samaster, the Lich Archmage that broke the Dragon Rage ritual finally, as he was trying to create an army of undead dragons, when he died, he had a copy of the Zorvental rules, and that was rediscovered by this vampire drake who spread it to the princes of Murgome. So it's interesting. It covers modern history as well, and the dragons are now cooperating with each other in unexpected and very dangerous ways. So yeah. Is it a wild shape or a transporter accident? Yeah. Yeah, giving up their sorceress abilities in order to gain telepathy amongst themselves, and also their ability to manipulate other people. So they become essentially like they're all become green dragons. But it doesn't matter what alignment of dragon it is. When they get involved in Zorvental, they all have to follow the precepts of Zorvental. They have to follow the Zorvental rules. It's like programmed into them. So it's like following, essentially Zorvental is like the Force, right? That's a good question, Vaughn. Was nice seeing you at the Devils. I have a question. Has the OGL stuff affected the way you being able to do Dungeons and Dragons videos? No, not at all. Because I've been covered by the fan content policy of Dungeons and Dragons the entire time. So as long as I essentially don't put my material behind a paywall, it's perfectly fine. So everything I talk about, and I can slag them off as much as I want to, and there's jack shit they can do about it, essentially, because nothing I say about them isn't essentially true as far as I know. So yeah. How exactly did he break the curse? He destroyed the mythal that the dragon that the elves created. So the mythal was it's a locational ritual that they invest life force into. So song magic actually is bardic magic in a way. So the elven magic, the song magic, is extremely powerful because they essentially give up their life to continually power the spell in a spirit realm. So it's like it's powered in the prime material plane and the ethereal realm at the same time. Cadley Bonadus basically did this as well. He protected the spirit soaring. He trapped a demon essentially, and gave up his life force to create the spirit soaring cathedral. And so he became a living mythal kind of to trap a demon. That's one way that you can do it. because souls are very powerful. They're like a battery source, an unending battery that you can power a spell forever for. So essentially, he just broke the mythal. Yeah, fans make D&D, not the other way around. Exactly, Mike. Fan content creators for life. Hey, Glenn. Hey, Ian. I'm back to teach you the ways of Faerun. Yes, it's true. I've been away on a sabbatical in the multiverse for a good 8 months, but I've kicked the door to the dungeon down, and I'm back in. I'm back. Your hearts beat to power your magic. Exactly. The lesser known monster vid's coming back for the Forgotten Realms. Yeah, I mean, like we've got things like the land lamprey. We've got all sorts of predatory plants and fungus in here, like the mandrigal, for instance. Ooh, couple of thanks, Morgan. What character classes would dragons most likely be? Blacks as rogues, etc. Anything. They're intelligent beings, so they can be any character class. I would say if you want to go dragons, go old school and give them restrictions on things that they can do. Like they can't be cavaliers, for instance, because they can't ride horses and they don't swear fealty to stuff. But dragons can be any character class because they can transform themselves into humanoids and things like that. So they're intelligent, free-willed beings that have alignments and stuff. So they can be any character class, essentially. They may balk at being warlocks and stuff like that, but not necessarily. They may see that as a quick means to power, and dragons are egotistical enough to believe that they can get out of any bargain that they get themselves into. So, yeah, they can be like a John Constantine warlock character. They can be paladins, they can be clerics, they can be rogues, absolutely be wizards, and they've got a fundamental tie to sorcery because, of course, they are dragon-blooded sorcerers by their very nature. Yeah. In one way, like it's weird to me that in the most recent edition of the game, dragons don't have fundamental magical knowledge that's listed with their monster stats, like what their standard spell use and stuff is. They absolutely should do, because they cast spells like nobody's business. They are creatures of magic. Would I do a Skulk video? Yeah, absolutely. I have basically a blank. I've got the list book is still here. So if you have requests and stuff for specific content, now is a good time to make requests in the video comments. Because essentially I've just wiped the slate clean and I'm sort of starting over. But like, look at this is just some of the stuff that I have on track for completing the Monster Manual 2. That's like that's double row of monster videos there. So I have got tons and tons of content to do. And I'm just going to be churning out videos as fast as I can, essentially. I'm dedicated to it. Thanks, Drew. Great day, AJ. I have been collecting some original books. What are your thoughts on the best D&D version to play to get new players the best base for the roots of the tabletop game? Also glad to catch another live stream. I would say start them off on D&D Basic. Get them used to the idea of what a role-playing game is. Even dial back on the rules for D&D Basic and just give them a character, give them a pre-made character and say, I'll take care of all the rules and stuff. You just tell me what your character wants to do. They will organically pick it up and then move on to advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Probably, whatever edition you're most comfortable in and play, whatever you're most comfortable in will impart your enthusiasm to the game into them. So it's really a question of what do you find the most fun and easiest vehicle to convey the stories and the way of playing the game that you want to play, because you are their version of D&D. You're their first introduction to it. So your passion for how you play the game and whatever edition you enjoy will be the edition that they are introduced to, and that's the lens that they all see Dungeons and Dragons through going forward. From then on, if they choose to run games themselves, they can pick and choose whatever edition they want to play. But essentially, yeah, I'm not advocating any one particular edition. I think they've all got merit. I do also think that the game has progressed a lot from edition to edition, but each time they do that, they also lose a little bit of something as well. So there's you got to lose something to gain something. The fundamental precept of Zorvental. you gotta lose a little bit of something, you gain a little bit of something. Like we lost the minions and the organization and the structure of 4th edition to get to 5th edition, but 5th edition also brought back a lot of the stuff that we lost from 2nd edition and 3rd edition. So, is there a perfect combo? I don't know if there ever will be. So, yeah, but I certainly don't trust the people who are in charge of the game at the moment to bring us a better edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Certainly not. You can't create a game by committee when you ignore everything that the people are saying. What's my favorite aberration? Probably Mind Flayers, I'd have to say. I don't think Mind Flayers are overdone. I think Mind Flayers forever, I really like Mind Flayers. I like anything that Bruce Cordell made, essentially. I had somebody arguing recently that, Mind Flayers were Gary Gygax basically ripping off H.P. Lovecraft. So I was like, H.P. Lovecraft wishes he had lore that deep, and he's like, and I said, look, Mind Flayers weren't created by Gary Gygax, sure, named them and stuff, but Bruce Cordell is the godfather of all Mind Flayers Far Realm lore. I mean, go look at the Gates of Firestorm Peak. He invented the Far Realm. He coined the terms. He created all the stuff. He wrote the Alethead. Like Bruce Cordell is the godfather of the Far Realm. If I ever meet the man, handshake, hearty pat on the back, well done, sir. And he's a great guy, to boot. Or in Canadian, to boot. You can play dragons in Rifts, it's true. You can play dragons in D&D as well, if you want to. Speaking of dragons, bronze dragons are known to adventure and stuff when young, but it seems that you can't change shape until 100 years old. Would they get a hand-me-down magic item to polydorm? Yeah, they would. Essentially, they can use spells to polymorph just like anybody else can. So that would be probably something that a parent would pass down to a metallic offspring. It's like shape changing is a part of our culture. So until you can do it integrally, here's a spell to help you out. Why not? Exactly. Any ideas for a villain for a Shrek-based campaign? Well, Shrek is actually an old sheep in New Zealand. Let's see. Something that's destroying the swamp, like probably something like a orc war boss who's trying to make catapults so he can assault the castle. Something like that. Something that's chopping down the swamp or draining the swamp or infecting the swamp. An evil wizard like Gargamel who's brewing a potion to... he's caught some smurfs and he's brewing a magical potion to give himself longevity, immortality, and he's making bad batches of it, which are spawning evil smurfs. So use the stat blocks for myconids or veggie pygmies. Get creative. AJ just spitting out adventure ideas. I would be very interested in anybody who's on the Discord server. If you have ideas of how you would use Zorvental in your game, throw them at me, because I'm in the last little stages of writing the script. It'll be polished and written by the end of the day. And I'm going to be assembling it and then uploading it probably in the next day or two. All the artwork and stuff like that. But the script is essentially mostly done. Yeah, if you have any ideas for how you would use Zorvental in your game, I'm looking at like kung fu school ideas, like kung fu chopsaki. What do they call it? Classic kung fu movies storylines, or Jedi Sith type situations, or like stings and con games, long cons. That's very much Zorvental as well. Heists are very much part of Zorvental. So yeah, they really are it really is a good tie-in for like a lot of modern content that have been put out. That's been put out. Heist movies being du jour for a while. Hey, Stormer, thank you. Oh, was there an interesting metal or material that was base search for in Chult? A specific metal or material? I don't think so. Nothing rings a bell. Sorry, Stormer. Nothing rings a bell. If anything, it might be some sort of necrotic material, maybe. I don't know. That seems to be the thing. Or it's also something primordial in origin. So some pure element from the elemental planes that that has carried over from, because like it's one of the few places in Faerun where the gods basically let a primordial exist. And yeah, but otherwise it would be materials that you would otherwise find on the world Abeir, because Abeir is like Toril except no gods, only primordials, and dragons are in charge, and they play Zorvental, and Dragonborn are native there. One interesting thing I talk about in the video is how the two versions of Dragonborn that we have in D&D lore still coexist. So back in the original, when Bahamut was fighting against the first spawn of Tiamat, he basically needed troops, knights, in order to do this. And so he recruited from the mortal races, other species other than dragons, and said, look, I will transform you into a dragon. You must do it willingly. You can't pass this on to your children. And you will become an exarch, a lieutenant of me. Kind of Zorvental, like lieutenant style thing. And they transformed into Dragonborn, right? But on the world of Abeir, there are also natural-born Dragonborn that reproduce normally as a species. And then they transported over to, when the two worlds merged for a while there, the whole section of Abeir manifested on the world of Toril, and that was full of Dragonborn. And so there are natural-born Dragonborn on Toril now, legitimately, through the lore. But there is also a ritual that Bahamut can give to a non-Dragonborn species to turn them into a Dragonborn. But it's a very different type of Dragonborn. So it's yeah, there's two different types of Dragonborn. They're both legitimate. You can play either. But yeah, you can't be a Dragonborn who's transformed into a Dragonborn without being a cleric or a paladin of Bahamut. They are Bahamut's knights. Oh, one interesting thing in the video is you learn the original name of Bahamut, that the dragons call him. You need a game set in Athos. Yeah, basically, Bryce. Thanks, Morgan. Emperor-class Titan with Warforged Templar Order as a Church of Gond. yeah. Just go to Gehenna, steal one of the walking fortresses, bring it to Toril, turn it into a Temple of Gond. Yeah. Can you imagine the Lanthanites then? I'd be like, okay, all right, yep. Whatever you say, guys. Yeah, that is exactly what the Temple of Gond would do. Yeah, the Spell Plague and the Second Sundering. I don't really like them, but they're part of the lore. Wow, Sir William, that's some, yeah. The Ux Bahamuti versus the Dara Stricadrill. Daras Tricadrill. Tricadrill? Daras Tricadrill? You missed everything, Kick-Ass Duke. We're almost over. Dark Sun, yeah, I mean, I know people like it, but I mean, as a dire halfling myself, I find that setting to sleep deeply disturbing. What was the conclusion of the Netheril videos? I really need to get around to doing the last sort of like an addendum video to the Netheril videos, because since I made those, Eric Boyd released his document, which was the PDF, which is about Jurgle, the Lord of the End of Everything. And if you haven't read that, absolutely, if you are a fan of Netheril, the modern era of Dungeons and Dragons, the fall of the Empire and the current state of affairs, and lore about the origin of the multiverse and everything, go and buy that and read it. And it will change your whole perspective on Netheril, Karsus, magic, the state of reality of the Forgotten Realms and the D&D multiverse, Tharizdun, the astral plane, gods, the whole works. It'll change everything. It's like the most bombshell fundamental document of lore that I think I've ever read. And Eric just like, yep, here we go. I'm like, what? Yeah, it changes everything about Karsus. He was duped, man. He was a pawn. What, Kirk? I think that's from a movie or something. The machine god blesses the idea. The Omnissiah. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine basically a bunch of Gondites embracing like the iron faith? Like, I'm going to replace my body part not with this weak flesh, but with metal. Yeah, giant shield guardian, essentially. Yeah, that's a great idea. Ah, Durastrix Trickle. Kittrell. Durastrix Kittrell. To be born a dragon. I see. Thank you, Sir William. That's true, Ian. Yeah, the spell plague did make some weird, messed up magic environments, and where would we be in adventuring without weird, messed up magical environments? So yeah, you got to hand it to it. Saurials, yes. Curse of the Azure Bonds, old school. Only videos I found on lesser Forgotten Realm deep dive creators. Yeah, I haven't actually read the Curse of the Azure Bonds or the Azure Bonds series of books. And I also want to read the Brotherhood of the Griffin books because it's got to do with the Dragon Princes of Murgome and Zorvental and stuff. But, I mean, yeah. This is why I say to people, I don't have any time for recreational reading. All my reading time has to be like lore-based research and stuff like that. So even the novels that I read, like I read all of the Drist novels, just so I'd have a better understanding of all of the Drist lore. You'll have a bit of Boyd. Yep. Eric Boyd and George Krashos and Ed Greenwood. Yeah, those guys there. Yeah, and Bruce Cordell, obviously, are the absolute goats of lore. But I mean, even Ed will ask Eric questions about Realms lore. I may also be talking to Ed Greenwood at some point. I'm not sure when or where or how it will materialize, but like Ed's people are talking to me. I don't have people, but Ed's got people. Ooh, Mr. McKinnock, that's a good question. Hey AJ, what D&D setting would you want to get a Baldur's Gate 3 like video game? Clearly, I would like to be able to walk through Candlekeep. But Baldur's Gate 3 type video game, probably one of like the more obscure areas of the Forgotten Realms. I think I actually played through the Chult one, which was a very different, weird sort of gameplay, not at all like Baldur's Gate 3. And it used the 4th edition rules, which was also weird. But it was a good game. Very turn-based, pub problem-solving sort of thing. It was basically like playing a board game. What should we call it? Legend of Drist and those ones. Probably something like Eberron, because I have less of a hands-on, like, I've never really played a game of Eberron that I really enjoyed, so I think I would like to give the setting a good go. Like it's got a lot of good lore and stuff in there, and I think all I need is a better representation of it to be immersed in it. And so I think a Eberron Baldur's Gate 3 type adventure would be really good for me to get to grips with, like Eberron. Also, Dark Sun. Dark Sun would be fantastic for that as well, although you'd probably get very sick and tired of the sand and sandals aesthetic. But I mean, put in some good realistic booby physics, and I'm in there with the skin tight leather bikinis for both genders, for any gender. I've got no problem with adult content in D&D videos, D&D games for sure. Because I'm an adult, who cares? Yeah, booty. How many of the monster books have you covered? I don't know. I'd have to do an accounting. I've definitely done pretty much all of the Monster Manual for 5th edition. But as for other additional stuff that's come out, like I don't even know. I just keep churning out videos as fast as I can. There's an endless amount of monsters for me to cover. Honestly, I can't cover them all. I'll try. Thanks, Moonring. Moonring didn't get me to say it's our chittles. I'm so disappointed. I might have missed the comment. Hot take, Eberron is actually a prison world. Yes, it is. Yeah. Kinda. It's an egg full of badness. Full of Kyber. The worst planets are full of Kyber. So funny that Kyber crystals are a part of like Star Wars lore. And also part of like Eberron. But would the new Eberron game have the Magitech vehicles D&D Online lacked? I would hope so. Planescape, yeah. I think everybody's got a different, like, I think conceptually Planescape is better left a bit vague. So that you can really, like, every time you play with a DM, their version of the Outer Planes is like slightly different and personal to their beliefs and stuff, you know? I don't think they should be too codified, the Outer Planes. Free Kyber, she not do nothing. Muffin. Yeah. Kyber did nothing wrong. You can cosplay as that character Sean Connery played. What, Ramirez? Never overextend your thrust. Hey, Kikastuk. Thank you. Have you fallen down the rabbit hole that is creating DD characters in the AI art generator app yet? Well, yeah. I mean, I create AI art all the time. That's part of my job now. I'm getting fairly good at it, I think, within my bounds, you know. Yeah, no, not really. I don't make a lot of D&D characters or anything like that. I don't get to play enough games, honestly. Was Sean Connery ever something other than a grumpy Irishman? Irish? He was Scottish. Zardon. Any interest in exploring the story and lore of the Heroes Unlimited? I've never seen anything about it online. Well, there isn't really like lore of Heroes Unlimited. Well, there is a little bit, but it's a kind of a setting agnostic supers game, which is fine. They do have Century Station and that sort of stuff, but those are just optional. That's right, Elliot. Sean Connery will always be the Green Knight plus his chest hair. Look, I mean, Sean Connery was a great actor and everything, but yeah, I'll just remember him for James Bond and Ramirez, you know. He's in some other movies. He's in a lot of movies. He was also in like The Untouchables. He played a pretty good character there as well. I'll just remember him for his work. Hey, Kairos. Well, it's about time for me to toddle off and carry on with my work. As I mentioned before, anybody who's got any ideas about how you would use Zorvental in your games, like settings, how you would involve it in your setting, in your campaigns and stuff like that, let me know on Discord. Have a conversation about it. I would greatly appreciate it. Why are you New Zealand? Is it good? Why am I New Zealand? I was born here. I can't help it. Sorry about the accent. Is it good? Yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's just a problem that it's really, really expensive to get to Gen Con. Really expensive to get to Gen Con. I've tried. I've been stopped like by so many things. I was going to do this, it caught fire. I was going to do this, there was a pandemic. Also, thanks to all of the backers on the Silicon Battle Mat Kickstarter that's concluded recently. That's now in manufacturing. So that's all kicking off and doing its thing over in China right now. Happy hands are at work creating all of the battle mats. And those are going to get delivered. They're going to be manufactured early October, and we'll be delivering them. So they'll be like from the 3rd of October, add another 14 days for delivery, and they will be in your hands around the 15th of October, 15th, 16th, 20th, depending on how speedy and accurate your local delivery outlet is. That's the main reason why we had to get all the information, everything from everybody for deliveries just right, like with phone numbers and stuff like that, because all of the problems we had was not from the shipping from China. It was the local delivery guys, like UPS or whatever the hell local shipping companies work in, particularly rural parts of America. Certain states were much worse than others. Yeah. It's just like, man, like you can't trust the postal service. That was sort of mind blowing. It's like you've got one job to do, deliver a parcel from here to there, and you can't even do that? Like, that's your job. Well, got delivered to the wrong address, or it went missing, you know. Thanks, Elliot. Super sticker. Yeah, there's a lot of videos that I've done that it could do with a facelift and like a sound recheck and stuff like that, but I just don't have the time. It's like, yeah, it's old content, it's crappy, but you know, it is what it is. I live and I learn. It's an organic channel. I've gotten better at making videos over time. It's good to see the progression, you know. 2016 and 2020. In the United States, the Postal Service was largely hollowed out. Oh, hollowed out. Dang. What, it's like state funded? I thought they were like independent businesses. Like in New Zealand, for instance, it's a business that runs essentially. Courier Post and New Zealand Post and stuff. There's competition like for postal delivery, parcel deliveries and stuff. New Zealand Post covers the most of it. It used to be like a state-funded thing, but things have got progressively more privatized in New Zealand over the years. Less state control. Sometimes not for the better. Like our rail service and essentially our coastal shipping service got completely destroyed by privatization because big international companies came into New Zealand, undercut all of the local shipping, put all of the local shipping businesses out of action, and then refused to do all the small shipping jobs. So they only deliver to major ports. So all of the shipping from port to port in New Zealand just went away because of international competition coming in, undercutting locals and just driving them out of business. So they Walmarted us essentially. And that absolutely sucks, particularly when we have coastal erosion and stuff taking out major road networks, which we now rely on trucks to transport everything. So that decision by the government not to essentially subsidize local shipping with international competition coming in resulted in the destruction of our environmental integrity going forward, our environmental security going forward, and also contributed more to environmental damage from truck exhausts and road erosion and stuff like that. So stupid. There's economic theory and there's economic what's actually going to happen. Like, so you need to line those two up and not fall for your own rhetoric, essentially. And there's some situations where international competition is absolutely bad. Like, yeah, it's not like the free market is not the answer to every situation, particularly when you're a small like company, a small country. You just can't compete against big operators like that. But that's not D&D. Maybe relevant to something like Zorvental, if like, you know, a big big operator comes in and takes out small operators. I won't mention who did it. You can guess. Yeah, federal politics. Meh. All the weapons from all the books? I probably will do some more magic item videos and stuff. I really liked like the magic. It's a shame that I don't do the video intros anymore, like the intro sequences, because I really enjoyed making those. But yeah, we got to move with the time, and people don't do video intro segments anymore. I just get straight into the video content, and people still complain if it's like I don't mention it specifically for like the first minute. They're like, video starts at 5 minutes. It's like, dude, I was talking about like the topic the entire time. Yeah, but you didn't say Vlaakith until 50 seconds in. It's like, okay. All right. Yes, new phone. It's time for me to go, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this impromptu live stream. It's been great seeing you. We've had like 83 concurrent viewers. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm glad that everybody understands why I stepped away from D&D. It's as much a mental health thing as anything. It also just like a legitimate protest. And I was glad that I was part of that movement that cost Hasbro a good like $143 million. And yeah, but they did make a crappy film that's not gonna last the length. Like people aren't going back, and I suppose people are watching that film again. But I mean, it's still not the D&D movie that we need. It certainly wasn't. I don't know. It hand waved a lot of Forgotten Realms stuff, but I mean, it had no like. Was Edian even a bard? There was no like. Did it really represent the Harpers? Was there any Lord's Alliance? Was there any like, you know? It didn't really represent undead or liches or Thay or anything really. It's like, hey, look, there's an owlbear. Hey, look, there's a displacer beast. Hey, look, there's something or other. But it was all just like sprinkling of fan service, but no substance to it, no depth. And Hugh Grant obviously didn't want to even be there. He's got no interest in D&D whatsoever. And I don't think any of the rest of them really cared either. There was just no passion to it. And Krusk, the first thing they did was like kick Krusk, a fantastic character that was represented in 3.5 edition. The half-orc that in the prison scene, that was Krusk. Kicked him in the nuts with girl power. Yeah, it was awful. I haven't rewatched it. I pirated it. I watched it once. I thought, yeah, that was shit, and I haven't watched it again. I'm glad that lots of people enjoyed it. I personally didn't. I didn't think it was great. And that last little bit, Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons, right at the end of the movie, just took away all of my whatever enjoyment I had from it. Just spat right in my face. With girl power, yeah. Krusk. Oh, look, I ain't got time to explain it. Catch you later, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again soon.